So now you have this structure in the upper body. You've had this for quite a while. It has a little bit of buoyancy in it, so the balloon sometimes is not as inflated as it should be for a real fight. But it's good enough for nice gentle push hands. But if you can keep that balloon inflated there, then this structure connects it to the feet. And if the lower back is open, you have real power. Then when I push, that. Now don't coil up and do it. Just keep your arms there already. So then that happens. So when I have it right there, and it only moves me because I have that structure here too. If you do that again, and I'm relaxed, it's not going to bounce me. But because I also am practicing Tai Chi, I need to have this structure. This is the big Tai Chi ball that prevents me from getting punched. And it allows me to neutralize people who are bigger and stronger than I am. So if you are here and you're connected and you feel that in the back, and the power is over there, you're already moving that, then that bounces. So from here, it has to have that structure. I have to be connected to it. And now you're thinking too much. So you've got to feel the structure, feel the connection already. Feel the fascia line up with the feet. Feel the lower back open. Feel that connection into my center of gravity. There you go. So I'm already moving before you move. Right. Before you do anything. I'm already being uprooted before you actually add that little extra. So you have already done the important thing before I start to move. Right. So from here, I'm there, it's under my feet, and I'm pushing you. No, relax. And I'm pushing you, we're both on my feet. If you can readjust, reconnect, no, don't push, don't do anything. If you can readjust, connect that to the ground so that I'm pushing your feet. Okay. There. Now when you move, there. I push myself up into the air. Right. Okay, so I push you. Yeah. There. Got it. And you're doing a physical movement to make that change now. You don't have to. You can just think centrifugal connection. Right. So here, if you push, and you're pushing me out of the ground, then we're both on your feet. And you push, now we go into my feet, and then you collapse. But if you maintain that buoyancy, you maintain that structure, then when you push, there. Now, when I do this, you have to maintain that structure, or the demonstration is okay. So as you push, there, now, there, that's good. Now it uproots. I had to go to the extension here to do it. But from here, as you push me, there, it's uprooting me. But if we go into my feet, then I push you. Right. So when people do it, this so-called empty force thing, it's just really just push hands. It's not a fight. It's not a demonstration of some supernatural energy. Right. It's just that when the person moves and people see the demonstration, what they are seeing is the physical movement. But what really happens is a subtle change in connection and realignment of the fascia in the mind beforehand. Right. And sometimes you can see it. Sometimes you'll see it. Now make yourself solid. Yeah. Not solid meaning like a well-inflated balloon. Yeah. And if the balloon is not inflated, then nothing's going to move you. And they're deflated. Okay. Right? But if I do that, because the balloon is inflated and you have that structure integrated, now it's going to move you. Right. And that demonstration depends on that. But for self-defense, you also depend on that. Right. So when we do this, I'm creating a better alignment, and you move. But the thing that moves you is actually your superior structure. Because when I push you, I don't get to push you off of your feet. Right. I push your feet. Like that. The same as if I punch, you don't just move your head out of the way, you move the whole body out of the way. That. So you're sensing that intent and that structure. So you move with it. And the more easily you can be pushed, the more difficult it is for me to create the pressure so that you end up responding to a real attack more instinctively and more naturally. So that when I punch, I never actually get to push you. And the people that get really good at doing this kind of thing are so soft that you can't find them. Right? So that if I try to push you, that happens. Okay? But don't lose that buoyancy afterwards. Right? So you've got it, it works really well for the first beat, sometimes the first two, and then you've lost it because you tense up. So you maintain that, the feet move, you maintain that structure. So now you're in solid position. That's it. So when I attack, there you go, and you are still in that solid position. So when it's a punch, there, that's it. There. And I still maintain my structure. If you push me, and I don't have that, I'm going to lose my balance. But if you push me, and I have that buoyancy, then my feet are going to roll, and I'm still in the game. Right. But most people, they get around and you push me, and they start to lose it, and they spiral out of control on the spot. So having that inflated balloon shape is good for both defense and offense. It also makes this ridiculous empty force demonstration possible. Because if they didn't have that shape, it wouldn't work. And when people have not practiced this way, and you do the Kongjin demonstration on them, nothing happens. Right? That doesn't happen because they don't have that structure. So
is that what the Fajing things?
Fajing means explosive power. It also means emitting energy. So Fajing, depending on what part of China you're from, I suppose, Fajing either means that, meaning explosive power. So you'll see this in the form, or you'll see this explosive movement. Some people conflate Kongjing and Fajing, and they'll say that when I push somebody without touching them, that's Fajing, that's emitting Jing. That's not the way I learned it. I learned Fajing is a physical expression of internal power, meaning like that. And Kongjing is the invisible expression of internal power. So Kongjing is empty force, Fajing is explosive power. So if I push you, and you have that structure, if you're winning already, which you should be, then when I push, it uproots me, it moves you, but in a way that compromises me. There. Now you see that? You've collapsed. It starts to, you went for the point and lost the structure.
Right.
You say, oh, there I got it. But you have to have that balloon. Right. You have to have that shape. Right. So that if I attack, you maintain this. That's it. So you can counter, but you should counter in a way that maintains that structure. So you don't lose it. You don't go, eh. I'm going to send the flanking attack and then lose my center. So engage, feel the ground, relax. There you go. And you're there long before I get there. Right there. And you don't even have to wait for me to come there. Just do that. That works really well. So structure, relax, okay? Yeah, there you go. So that relaxation and connection, you go immediately from confronting me to just owning me. Right. So you maintain that structure. Now I'm in a horrible place. There. That's it. So, and that's from doing this. Right. And having that shape. As we say, you start by winning. Connect. Feel the connection into my spine. Feel where my feet are, my toes are. Oh yeah. That's it. So you can do that little spiral thing. Rotate me out of my feet so I can't find the ground yet. This keeps me just a little off balance. So rather than just defending, connecting it to the ground, and then going for a target, you defend, you connect to the ground.
I just got it.
Yeah, I just got it. Okay. So you defend, you connect to the ground, and you own the spine. So now, if I can't find my feet, I can't find a superior position, then there's not going to be much fight left in me. And then that's when the throws and the takedowns and the jump hooks and stuff will just manifest out of that. And the counter strikes as well. So as I come in, you engage, there's your strike. Now engage my spine. and keep me off balance in case I'm still conscious. Go find the feet, find the toes. That's it. No, relax, connect to the ground. Connect to the ground so you expand out of your connection into me.
Right.
There. I recover, and I hit my head again. And so I'll be constantly trying to recover. So if you defend against the first attack, that's it, and then lock up, then I can cover. But if you're frozen, then I know what to do next.
Yeah.
But if you just keep spiraling into my spine, and continue that connection to the fascia, then I can't. I guess now you hit me because I've frozen up. Because I'm counting. Yeah, you can do that. Just tap into the head, all kinds of things, right? And then when I move, then you spiral again. So as you connect, you take a shot, and dodge, then you come forward. And then that's when you get the joint locks, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you have to maintain your connection to the ground. You have to maintain the buoyancy in that structure, but extend that awareness to include the other person, so that now it's that. There you go.
So when I think of all these things like in the video, if you're pushing me and I'm pushing, so we have
A video of the fascia.
Yeah, so we have these two things just doing that now.
Two tensegrity structures.
Two tensegrity structures.
That's right. And the Kongijin is when those two tensegrity structures engage each other and become one. Then I can manipulate my end, and that.
Because we are.
That's right. We are. So as that happens, then I can manipulate my structure, and that affects your structure.
Right.
It's not me manipulating my structure, throwing it at you, and hoping something happens.
Yeah.
We become one.
Right.
And in that respect, there is no enemy. So it's not just an idealistic thing, it's a physiological thing. There's no distinction. There's no buoyancy. Right? That's it. So you have to have that buoyancy in there, or else I'll connect in.
Right.
It has to be relaxed, or else I'll sneak around. If it's don't say sorry. Say, are you okay? Are you okay? So for there, when I do this, you maintain the structure, okay? And I lose the structure.
Oh, and that's where I should.
That's when you hit me.
Oh,
Right, we countered instinctively because you had the structure, and I abandoned structure in order to create an attack.
oh,
I went for technique and lost the root.
okay.
So if I go like this, I must maintain the structure.
Okay, so that's like if I'm pushing against the wall like this, my foot comes down, it has to be like that, as opposed to
Right.
like that.
Yes, you want, even when the foot is in the air, you should have your weight on that foot.
Right.
So if you push me, you can lift the foot up, but you're still on that foot. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be bent like that. There. It should still be receiving the ground.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, so when I go, you're there on your foot,
Yeah.
as opposed to pushing me, leaning on me when they just come before.
Yeah.
So the connection to the ground is always there, but it's not defined by the other person.
The connection to the ground is always there, it's not fine. Okay, got it.
So there will be interactions with the other person that change the shape, change the dynamic, but your internal structure, the internal energy connection to the ground is the same. You maintain that. That's why the compromise has to be reached, meaning that if I push you, your feet have to move.
Right.
Because otherwise, if your balance and your structure is defined by me, then when I push you, you lose your feet.
Exactly.
The feet
Because I'm relying on you. I'm making you my support.
Right. But if I push you and you are connected, then when I push you, the first thing that moves is your feet.
Ah, as opposed to this.
Right. So I push you, the first thing that moves is your feet, you maintain your structure. So getting bounced around is a good thing. Okay? It's not a demonstration of the superiority of the teacher that they can push you around without using force. It's the skill of the student that allows them to be moved. And to be moved, but in a way that doesn't compromise the balance. Like that. So when we do this, when one person just holds that structure and the other person starts doing this, then I can start, manipulating like that. So that's a kind of empty force, right? It wasn't a push, it was you bouncing off me.
Okay. It was me getting tense in response to
It was you having a structure that bounced off me when I created a particular dynamic. So I go like that, you bounce off me. If I get you off balance and you don't have that structure, then I'll push you off balance, you won't bounce, but I'll still have you off balance.
I see.
So it's like this trick here we were talking about the other day, is that if you do this and I move you, your feet move. If you resist, then you'll stumble backwards.
Right.
If you don't have Tai Chi skill, then you get pushed off balance. Or what you can do if you're not cooperating with the exercise and you don't want to go, you just bend your legs and there, you neutralize it. So empty force can be neutralized very easily. But the point of empty force is not to neutralize it. The point of empty force is to make it look like you're being pushed around without being touched. That's the goal of the student. So the person who is being moved around, I'm moving you to see if you are connected to yourself.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And if you're not connected to yourself, then the empty force won't work. Then we're doing a different exercise.
Okay.
Then it becomes a freestyle push-ups. Now it's me seeing if I'm connected. So we take turns. So now if you are not letting me do empty force on you, then it's not an empty force demonstration. So it's more of it's a test, it's an exercise. It's a very poor demonstration because you can't see what's being demonstrated. So there's really no point in demonstrating empty force. But there is a value in practicing it. Unless your purpose in demonstrating it is to confuse the spectators.
What did you see these photographs of the guys flying through the air?
Yeah. Well, that stuff is a demonstration of the good structure of both people. And so if you're doing a throw, one person's several feet in the air, then the person who's on the ground obviously has good structure and they're able to go up with the other person. The person in the air obviously is doing it properly because they're in the air. They're not on their head. Their feet are still underneath them.
So with the explosive power that you showed before, what's the story with that?
The explosive power, how much room do we have? Well, that's the start of it.
Okay.
So the Kongjing is the start of explosive power.
Okay.
So if you have that structure and that shape that can do that, so you're not going to go far because you're not that kind of a student. But there you go. So if I can do that, I can do it with proper structure and I'm not using effort, I'm not using power, I'm not exploding power from the dantian, then I can do that. And then if I release it, and I'll do it gently, then I can release the power that way.
So, so the first one, what I was doing before, when you were bouncing off, that's the beginning of it.
That's the beginning of it. You have the structure, you have the needle lined up.
Okay.
Right? The needle in the cotton, the needle has to be a contiguous thing and directed in the right direction. For most people, the needle is a wet noodle.
Okay.
It's a noodle in the cotton. So they push and they're all cotton.
Okay.
But if the needle is there, that means you have that connection, proximal alignment, that centripetal connection to the ground.
Okay.
And so if there you're starting by losing again. So just connect, start by winning. There you go. You have that alignment there, connect that to the ground. So now it's your ability to move this towards me in line with my center, to move my center of gravity. That's it. And then once you have that needle inside the cotton, then you can practice moving it quickly, with just that kind of thing with the dantian.
Here's the thing. Where is that movement coming? I'm not stretching my arm.
Right. The arms don't do anything. They're just a connect. This is just a connector. That's right. Yeah. So the power, the movement comes from the legs and it's directed by the hips and the waist. So the power comes from the legs and the hips moving together, rotating around each other. The direction of it is created by the waist. So you move the waist. So the waist is between the pelvis and the ribcage. So you move the waist. That determines which way the arm is going. Where the power comes from is directed by the legs rotating that on a fulcrum. So you either have this fulcrum, this fulcrum, this fulcrum, this fulcrum, this fulcrum, or this.
And is that way through these muscles that just discovered?
Yeah, that's right. Those muscles.
They're the ones that are going to
Right, so push, that's it. There you go. Yep. So from here, you push, 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 push. Okay. So this push.
Okay,
So if you push and the back is not open, you push, that's just stomach muscles expanding. If the back is open, then now I have this centripetal connection. So when you push here, that's going to move you. And if you push here and I rotate around the hip, then I have this rotation. So you push, I do that. So as you push, here, there. So it's that kind of power. So this way we can demonstrate, this is again the ability for me to demonstrate the power. If you have the proper structure, then I can practice moving a solid object. If you are collapsed, then I don't push and all it does is move your fist. So I practice that. But I can also use my own arm from here and do that and issue power. So Kongjing is the structure, it can be you bouncing off of me. Fajing is that same kind of connection. So just the dantian muscles. There you go. Now keep the lower back open as if you're pushing me, as if you're doing that shove we were practicing before. There. That's it. That way it comes from the ground.
Okay.
Yeah. Because a lot of people try to do this.
No, I can
In fact, it should be.
I can feel
Yeah, don't even do the twist, just feel the connection to the ground. There. Because that came out of your feet. So you have that proximal, that centripetal connection. There. Nice. So that's just that connection with the explosion. Now if you do that and rotate the hip really quickly, there. So it comes out, either you go this way or this way, and it's going to come out and it's going to move like that.
Okay,
So now if you do that with the hand, so think of this here being the fist connecting to your dantian. Feel it connect down there. So instead of bouncing my fist, you're going to bounce this whole structure at me. And don't do the rotation, just do the dantian. Just come out of the ground. That's it. You came out of the ground. So the dantian stays there, it expands, and everything above it goes up there. That's good.
You okay? Yeah.
And then you can rotate, put a little rotation into it. That's spiral power. You pivot it around the center line. Yeah, so if you pivot around this side or this side, it's different. So in this case, you want to pivot around this side, either this way or this way. So the center will move as the dantian expands.
Now when you're doing it,
When I do it, I'll do it either way. I'll do what you're doing just there, which is that. Or I will go the other way, which is that. It is. So it's rotating around this hip.
so my error is, I thought you were actually, it looks like you're, when you're doing this thing, it looks like you're actually extending your arm.
Nope, the arm doesn't do anything.
Can I see it again?
Yeah.
Just a fast one?
So from here, or there. This has to be connected. It has to have that buoyancy to it. So sometimes people will extend it a little to maintain that, to make sure they have that structure. So it'll do that or that. But if you extend the arm, then you compromise that connection. So there's a certain amount of leeway you have. You can move the arm like this, but you can't change the shoulder. The shoulder has to stay down. So you can extend the elbow, meaning that the elbow can come up a little bit, as long as it's hanging down. So the elbow can come up. But if the shoulder comes up, you lose it.
Got it. Okay. Because that's part of like lifting the tree.
Mhm.
Like getting that underneath.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, busy fruit.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So,
That's a lot.
well, basically every class, we're essentially summarizing the art in slightly different terms. It comes a little bit more concise, but we're basically describing the entire art of Tai Chi every class.
It's pretty
It's just-
incredible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I got it on now.
Okay, good.
I get it on now.